Middleweight bout, Brendan Allen and Bruno Silva, plus 158 for Silva, minus 158 for Allen, over under 1.5 rounds, minus 140 for the over, plus 140 for the under. Brendan Allen on quite a little win streak for him. He's won 4 in a row. The last time he was out, he came through as an underdog against Andre Muniz, which turned into the main event that night because Spann and Krylov couldn't go. So that was the main event. And what a turnout that was, because it looked like Andre Muniz was going to be the jiu-jitsu guy in that one, and then he decided to like strike, and then Brendan Allen takes him down and submits him. So a very interesting way for that one to play out. But Muniz, Jocko, Malkoun, and Sam Alvey are his 4 wins over those 4. And then the knockout loss to Chris Curtis. That was his last loss. And for Bruno Silva, he had a big comeback knockout win after taking 2 losses to Brad Tavares. That was April 22nd in the first round. Maybe a questionable stoppage. I remember that one, still a little fresh in the memory. But either way, 4-2 in the UFC. I mean, he hasn't looked bad. His only losses are to Alex Pereira, and the one bad loss was to Gerald, and he didn't look good in that one at all. I think he was just so scared of getting submitted.
Right.
That's how he loses, man. He's been submitted 6 times in his career, but he's got 23 knockouts or something like that. You got to add up all these numbers, but he's got a ton of knockouts. And I have a hard time believing in Brendan Allen's chin like that much, because you look at the guys like over his winning streak here. Alvey, not exactly like big hammers on the feet at that stage of his career. Malkoun, absolutely nothing on the feet. Jocko couldn't knock out what's his nuts, Alan Amidovsky. And Andre Muniz like decided to strike. Like, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and he just decided to strike. So you go back to the last time he's actually fought a guy with some hands, and it's Chris Curtis, and he got knocked out. So I'm like, I mean, I like Brendan Allen, but I also know Bruno Silva's got fucking stones in his hands. Like, I don't think many people can take those shots. And he went toe-to-toe with Alex Pereira. I mean, he's got a chin of his own. Got cracked by Gerald after that, but that's the only way he loses, is getting submitted. And I just got a feeling like Bruno Silva at plus money is always like a good bet. You know what I'm saying? What do you think?
Oh, for sure. I mean, he showed it in his last fight against Brad Tavares. But yeah, with Bruno, first of all, this is great matchmaking by the UFC. You got Bruno Silva, who can hit. You alluded to it. He's got power in his hands. Good takedown defense at 71% so far in the UFC. He's going to want to knock Brendan Allen out. He's going to want to stay on the feet and use that boxing, whereas Brendan Allen showed in his last fight, he can strike a little bit. He can also take you down and submit you, and that's probably where he wants to fight. So it's going to be the battle of who can implement their game plan. But at plus money, man, I think Bruno Silva is phenomenal value here, because you alluded to it as well on Brendan Allen's record. Loses to Chris Curtis by knockout, loses to Sean Strickland by knockout. His other fights, I mean, Soriano got tired after a round or 2. He didn't really have much power left. Sam Alvey, Jacob Malkoun, who's wanting to wrestle. Jotko, like you said, man, can't knock anybody out. So he's not really fighting these guys who will stand in the pocket and pose a threat of knocking him out. So he's got a big one in front of him here in Silva. I'm not going to be the least bit surprised if Silva finds the knockout, and I'm going to pick him to win this week, especially at plus money. He'll definitely be on my card.
Yeah, if I'm Brendan Allen, like, just go for the takedowns, bro. Like,
yeah, you have to.
Just don't even mess around, because I mean, he was looking pretty good on the feet against Muniz, but that's Muniz. Like, that's not Bruno Silva.
Yeah.
And he's got knocked out by Curtis and Strickland. So those guys got some pretty good hands. Strickland, not like the most power, but that was, it was 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think Silva's probably the play. But an Allen by sub bet is not always the worst thing, because he's got some good jiu-jitsu, and Silva's, he hasn't been subbed. He's only been subbed once in the UFC, and that was after he got his bell rung So it looks like when he got in the UFC, if guys were trying to grapple with him, like the fight against Wellington Turman, like he was able to fight that off and battle through it. Like, so I'm sure he's been working on it enough to where like he can't just get taken down and get subbed right away. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I like that he went 3 rounds with Alex Pereira and not get knocked out there. Like that shows you ate 108 strikes from Alex and didn't go down and get knocked out. Like that's pretty impressive at the end of the day. Scored a few takedowns on him too. So
it is pretty nuts. Yeah. I'll go with Silva for the pick as well.
Like it.